This channel is going to have a sudden change of direction for a while at least, and I understand that some of you might not have signed up for this. In particular my patrons, who have been amazing and stuck with me for the last couple of years after making a little comeback. And I can say if it wasn't for their support, I wouldn't have continued making any videos at all. Maybe just a couple after Toprek requested one, and that would have been it. But as I'm changing things pretty dramatically, I've paused Patreon payments to give people an opportunity to decide if they want to remove their support, which is fine with me. I think it's understandable. I have to think carefully about where I'm going to spend my time because I really don't have much of it, and I've decided that I want to focus more effort on this game that I'm developing because I'm really starting to think it may have some potential. It's a lot of work, and it's going to be a long time before it's playable. And for now, on this channel, on this YouTube channel, most future videos are going to be about updates on development of the game. And the rest of my time is going to be spent on the other channel, Keto, because I feel that this project is important, and I think it can really help people in reality from a public safety and personal safety perspective. I've got a lot of experience in this area, and I feel I can communicate something that might be able to make a difference, a small difference. There's a link in the description if you want to check that other channel out if you haven't seen it yet. This doesn't mean I won't return to the same kind of content that I've always made. I consider this a temporary thing, but I don't know how long I'll be doing this for. It could be a few months, it could be, I don't know, a couple of years. I really have no idea. But I intend to return to the other stuff, the other type of content that you're used to eventually. If I can change the subject back to this game I'm making. I don't have a name for it yet, but I've had this idea bouncing around in my head for maybe probably about a decade now. It's basically the kind of game that I've always wanted to play myself, but I've never seen anything come out that was really similar. In a weird way, it's kind of inspired partly by DayZ. It's not going to be a game for everyone. It almost has a bit of that social experiment aspect to it as well. So if we look at the basic map that I've got going at the moment, each cell you can see is a piece of land that is given to the players at the beginning, each player. Each cell, each piece of land has limited resources, some of which renew themselves like trees, but other things like copper are finite, and the more you gather, the more you mine, the more expensive it is to collect that item. The amount of food you grow depends on things like irrigation and rainfall, and that in turn affects the number of people that your land can support, your population. The resources aren't distributed evenly, and no individual land is going to have all the resources they'll need to build a large city without trading with their neighbours or taking it by force. For example, some places that have a lot of copper might not have much tin, and if you want to make bronze you need an alloy of tin and copper, so you'll have to find a way to get it. If you cut down all the trees and you don't allow them to grow, you don't give them a buffer, you won't have any more trees. So there's a little ecological message in there as well. If you take someone else's land, they're not eliminated. The player isn't gone out of the game. They're still there. They still live in that place, and you can enforce policies as strict or as lax as you want. You can even give them a lot of leeway. Let them live how they want with a small tribute, for example. And maybe you even build trust with them and let them gain control of the military, and it's almost like promote them to a general or something. Or you can just treat them like rubbish, and they might want to cooperate with other players and conspire to start a rebellion against you. It's turn-based, and the turns end when all players have submitted their turn, or there's going to be a timeout where it automatically processes the turn after a few days or something, whichever comes first. And this is a online multiplayer game, and the number of players on each map can be anywhere from 4, at minimum 4, to up to 400 is the limit I have right now. I may or may not increase or decrease that number depending how it plays out. What I'm working on right now is how to calculate the results of battles, and I've got a basic system in place at the moment which just looks at the size of each army and does a few other calculations to determine the winner, but other factors will come into play as it gets more complex. More things feed into that sort of system. Once this reaches the point where I want to get people testing it for me, I'll open it up to patrons only, if I have any left. Otherwise, I'll just try to find a small group of volunteers. I'm sure it won't be too hard to get some people to test it. I'm not a great programmer. I'm not a professionally trained programmer, and the code at the back end of this is pretty much held together with duct tape and paper clips, but I think I can achieve a minimum proof of concept. Perhaps I can get someone on board who can help with making it more stable and more secure. But worst case scenario, I think I can get this working with the features that I want, even though it might be a bit clunky. Again, maybe that's another similarity to the DayZ mod originally. It was a janky piece of shit, but people still loved it. Maybe I can get a similar result. As for security, I won't be storing any personal details on the server whatsoever. No IP addresses, not even emails, nothing, just the username and password. That's all that's going to be on the database, so that if it gets hacked, there's nothing of value for them to take. But yeah, this project's going to take some time. It's going to be a long-term thing. Next video, I'll start going into more details about the planned features and what I'm up to in the development so far.